What is going on, everybody? It is me again. It is HorrorFan34, and welcome to another video. And sort of a out of the blue video. Figured I'd do like a top 10 list, like just something random. And I don't know why this like topic kind of popped into my head, but I figured I'd do like a kind of an interesting top 10 where let me just get the list. So basically, what this list is, it's going to be my top 10 favorite gang movies. Now, this deals with, when I say gang movies, like street gangs slash biker gangs. That's basically what this list is going to be. Now, my list is pretty unique, I will say, because I'm not going to go like some of the typical movies that are about street gangs or biker gangs. Like, you're not going to see like things like Colors with Sean Penn and Robert Duvall, or you're not going to see like trying to think of like some other ones, like The Warriors, like because everybody pretty much knows those kind of movies. Like they're very well known out there. So these 10 movies that I picked that are my favorites are sort of more of the underrated ones that I feel like not many people know about or hardly ever discuss at all. So this one's going to be kind of unique in a way, as I said before, but I figured I'd showcase you guys my top 10 favorite gang movies. So that, like, once again, this is street gangs slash biker gangs. So without further ado, let's get on to the list itself. So as my list slides down, there we go. So number 10, I picked The Danger Zone. Talk about the first one here, but this is actually a really cool little thing I got on iOffer many years ago. Now I don't think iOffer even exists anymore, the website. But basically, this turned out to be a franchise, which I'm actually kind of shocked this got a franchise because no one ever has ever heard of the Danger Zone. But and it's actually signed by R.A. Mihailoff. Yeah, Leatherface himself, before he was Leatherface, plays one of the villains. Now, the Danger Zone basically is a biker film. The story is that you have these 6 women, these 6 girls, going to a singing competition in Vegas. They're traveling through the desert. They break down, and they see this town in the distance. They go look for help. Little do they know that this ghost town that they stumble upon into happens to be a lair of a biker gang, and they're in the midst of a drug deal, and they get taken hostage, and basically this cop who's undercover in the gang has to save them and bring down the leader and things like that. I put it at number 10 because it's not a wall-to-wall action film, and I kind of knew that going in when I first saw this film. Because when you watch the trailer, it's sort of more like a down and gritty drama, hostage sort of like movie. So there's not gonna be like bike chases and things like that. So it's very very low budget. But for what it is, I think it's pretty decent for what it is. Because going into it, maybe because I expected, knowing it wasn't going to be a full on action movie, so I liked it for what it was. I like the it's very gritty. I like the setting in the desert, and I think it was pretty cool to see R. Mihailoff sort of like in an early role before he was Leatherface. So the Danger Zone at number 10. Sticking with bikers, coming in at number 9, we have Point Doom. I always I really enjoyed this film. The first time I saw this was probably a few years ago, and I've watched this quite a few times before. I think it's rewatchable. Basically, with the idea with this one is that you have Richard Grieco, who plays a guy who's a very rich guy. He's a talent agent in Hollywood, and he meets this girl, this waitress, which is right here on the front, and basically her boyfriend is a biker, and he's the head of this biker gang, the Satan Slaves, I think they're called. And some of the members of the gang, you have Zach Galligan, yes, from Gremlins and Waxwork, as one of the villains. Pretty interesting cast you got in here. You have Richard Grieco, Ice-T, Andrew Dice Clay. You also have Angie Everhart, like I said, Zach Galligan. Sebastian Bach from the band Skid Row is one of the bikers in here as well. Very over the top action and things like that. It's a very not really a film to be taken seriously. But I kind of explained this more when I reviewed this film a few years ago. But I'm thinking about re-reviewing again at some point. But I do enjoy Point Doom. I don't think it gets like a 3.8 or something like that on IMDb, and I don't think that's that bad of a film to be honest. I mean, give me a break. But I do enjoy Point Doom quite a bit. Number 8, still sticking with bikers here, Motorcycle Gang. Yeah, very, very original title, I will say, Motorcycle Gang. But this was part of a series on, I think, Showtime in like 1994, where they were showing, like, remaking like 50s sort of like bikers, like rebel kind of like movies, and it was like a stretch of like on cable. I think one of them had David Arquette in it. I think one had Renee Zellweger, and I think Howie Mandel, really enough. And this was one of them that was part of that Showtime thing when they were showing all these films. And I enjoyed it for what it was. And basically the idea is that you have this family traveling to California. You have Gerald McRaney as the father. He has Major Dad himself and Simon and Simon. He has a wife. His daughter is played by Carla Gugino. And basically, while they're traveling to California, this biker gang starts terrorizing them and basically kidnaps Carla Gugino. And Gerald McRaney has to go save his daughter. And you have Jake Busey as the leader of these bikers. You also have Richard Edson as one of the bikers. He was one of the parking garage attendants in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's the guy that goes, when Matthew Broderick asks him, "Do you speak English?" And the guy goes, "Well, what country do you think this is?" That's Richard Edson. He plays one of the villains in here. And I will say that the finale in this kind of took me by surprise, because it's very graphic and, well, it's pretty bloody, and it was made for TV. You don't really see those kind of like bloody things made for TV. And I think Gerald McRaney, you don't want to screw around with this guy. You don't want to screw around with Major Dad, because he'll kick some major ass. I'll tell you that. But I like this film, Motorcycle Gang. It's my number 8. Number 7, speaking of bikers, we're still sticking with the bikers, and I think this is the last of the biker films, but number 7, Exit Speed. I always thought this was such a fun film. I saw this for the first time probably like back in 2014 on DVD. I'm actually really surprised it has a Blu-ray. I didn't think this film would ever have a Blu-ray, but basically you have, takes place on Christmas Eve. You have these 10 passengers on a bus. 2 of them one is Desmond Harrington and one is Leah Thompson. This bus is traveling home for Christmas Eve, and they come across these bikers. And basically they get chased, and it gets driven to this junkyard, and basically they have to hold themselves in the junkyard to protect themselves and fight back against the bikers. Fred Ward plays a guy who I think is an FBI agent who's looking for this lady soldier, and he ends up helping the passengers out at the very end. So, and I miss Fred Ward. Always great to see Fred Ward. May he rest in peace. But I would, if you like, and I think it's directed by Scott Zeal. I think this is the same director that did Hostel 3, if I'm not mistaken. But Exit Speed. I always thought this was a fun movie. Number 7. Okay, so that pretty much ends the bikers stuff. But no, actually, there's one more biker one. I lied. Number 6, I picked Jungle Ground. Jungle Ground, definitely one of my favorite Roddy Piper films. If you like Roddy Piper, you definitely got to give this a look. Basically, Roddy Piper, he's a police officer, and there's a sting operation that goes wrong, and he gets captured, and he gets brought into Jungle Ground, which is basically ruled by this gang, and basically, Roddy and the gang has kidnapped Roddy Piper's fiance, and the gang leaders tells Roddy Piper, well, okay, so you have until sunrise to get back to your place, and then you can have your fiance back, or we'll kill her, basically. But They let him go, and he's going to try to get back to his place, but they're sending goons after him to try to prevent him from getting there. And you have a really cool cast of characters. Not only do you have Roddy Piper, you also have J.R. Bourne as the leader of the gang. He was the guy in 13 Ghosts who was the lawyer guy who gets split in half. Christopher Kennedy, who was Ted in the very short-lived Bill and Ted TV show, plays one of the villains. And yeah, you have some really good one-liners, like when Roddy Piper has a guy, he captures one of the guys, and he has a screwdriver on the guy's nose, and he's like, and the guy goes, "Screw you," and Roddy Piper's like, "Ooh, bad suggestion." Or this one point where he's sliding down an elevator shaft and he shoots a guy with a cowboy hat on, and he goes, "Hi ho, Silver." You know, I miss Roddy Piper a lot. It's always great to see Roddy Piper. I miss the guy, but that is why Jungle Run is my number 6, and it's pretty direct video film. It's pretty good. Number 5, I picked Stone Cold, which I also have the newer Blu-ray from Kino, but I wanted to show this one because it was the easiest one to get. Signed by William Forsythe. Not to mention, to my point, Doom one was signed by Zach Galligan. I almost forgot to mention that. But Stone Cold, another really fun action film with Brian Bosworth. Basically, he has to go undercover in this biker gang, the Brotherhood, and infiltrate the gang. And directed by Craig R. Baxley, who directed I Come in Peace with Dolph. And you have a great group of bad guys. You have Lance Henriksen as the leader of the bikers. You have William Forsythe, and so many great lines in the film. William Forsythe, when he first meets Brian Bosworth, he's like, my, look what we got here. Looks like we got us a grown-up version of Bam Bam. You look pretty, Bam Bam. William Forsythe. William Forsythe, great character actor. Always been a big fan of William Forsythe. Lance Henriksen has some great lines in here, too. This reminds me of a son's last words. No, this reminds me of a father's last words. Don't, son, that gun's loaded. You have a great group of, and I love the whole finale I think it's at the White House, and you have motorcycles going through windows and helicopters exploding and gunfire and crazy over the top action. And I think Brian Bosworth does a great job as John Stone, or Joe Huff, but he goes under the alias John Stone, but in the gang. But Stone Cold, definitely a really fun movie. Number 4, I picked Trespass. Always been a big fan of this film. This was actually the film that I saw after Judgment Night, because I was really curious to know what other films were like Judgment Night, and this was one of them. But Trespass is great. You have these two firefighters played by Bill Paxton and William Sadler, and they're going to go look for this gold, and they're at the wrong place at the wrong time. You have Ice-T and his gang. They kill someone there, one of their enemies, and these guys are witnesses, and then they take Ice-T's younger brother hostage, and then they're trapped in the building. And you have a great cast of people. Not only these 4, Bill Paxton, Ice-T, William Sadler, and Ice Cube, but some of the other, you have Art Evans as this bum that they encounter in the building. And some of the villains, you have T.E. Russell, who was in Toy Soldiers. You have Tiny Lister Jr., may rest in peace. You have Glenn Plummer, who's in Speed. I forget the guy's name, but he was one of the baseball players in Angels in the Outfield. Ray Mitchell, I forget the actor's name, but he's in here. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about most of these, but Trespass, number 4. Number 3, I picked Enemy Territory. In my opinion, this is a really great triple feature to watch with Judgment Night, Survive the Night, and here. This is a great triple feature to watch with those two. Always thought this was a really underrated 80s film basically the idea with this one is that you have this insurance salesman who has to go collect this big chunk of money at this apartment complex and this housing in New York, a housing project, and he's at the wrong place at the wrong time. He puts his hand on a kid's shoulder when he taps him, and he basically is marked for death, basically, because those kids belong to a street gang called the Vampires, and they're headed by Tony Todd. A very young Tony Todd before Night of the Living Dead and Candyman and Wishmaster and Final Destination. This is way early in his career. And basically this guy gets trapped after dark in this apartment building, and the only help that he has is a telephone repairman played by Ray Parker Jr. Yes, the same guy that sang the Ghostbusters music is one of the stars. You also have Stacey Dash as as a girl who helps out our leads. J. Michael Vincent from the show Airwolf back in the day is the deranged Vietnam vet. But I always thought this was such a fun movie. I remember my buddy's house sleepovers. Like, this is like one of those films we'd always pop in and watch. It's a really good like late night popcorn movie. I would say Enemy Territory. That's why it's my number 3. Number 2, of course, I picked Survive the Night. I mean, I've talked about this film before, but underrated gem. I reviewed this film like twice before on the channel. I'll probably review it again. I'll review this film as many times as I can, because this film deserves so much more. And of course, my number 1 film dealing with gangs and all that stuff is Judgment Night. I mean, what more can I say before that I haven't said before? I talked about that film so many times. But anyways, that is my top 10 favorite street gang / biker gang movies. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. You guys take care.